If you're in an organization that's maybe not very healthy, that you're taking over, or culture has decreased for whatever reason, you have to start talking about the vision of the culture that you're building. So it's that repetition, it's recognition. Anytime you see that culture in action, you celebrate it, you recognize it.
You're trying to make thousands of dollars a month.
But
So talk about
one thing at a time.
the Upside podcast.
Yes.
With what it is and why did you decide you wanted to do that?
So I actually started a process of developing really my personal brand before I decided I wanted to do a podcast. So are you familiar with Rory Vaden?
Yes, I think.
Okay, maybe. So I wasn't either until about a year ago. He was a guest keynote speaker at Keller Williams Convention Family Reunion.
That's why I know the name. Yeah.
And he has a company called Brand Builders. And so what he does is he helps entrepreneurs and business owners that want to build and develop their personal brands. And he's written a book called Take the Stairs, Procrastinate on Purpose, which are both great books, highly recommend. But really his focus right now is helping people build their brands. And the way that he described branding, because I have honestly not been a big social media person. I don't derive joy from posting. I don't need everyone to know what I ate for dinner last night. I post a few random pictures of my kids, an event that we're doing at the office, but it has not been purposeful. It's not been intentional. And I have really kind of avoided it, to be honest, or strayed away from that as a strategy for growth. And when I heard Rory Vaden teaching on branding, though, it changed really my understanding of what it was about. And he describes your personal brand as just the digitization of your reputation. And as I started thinking about that and thinking about just the bigger impact and creating more influence, whether it is within my role at Keller Williams as a team leader or just a greater impact in the world for what I believe my purpose is on this earth, I thought, okay, I have a reputation. It's not digitized. And I can get on board with that. It just felt less self-absorbed and I was like, I see the path to that. So just started kind of learning and tapping my toe in. I worked with the most amazing marketing person in our Go network, Colette Stone. She's our director of Go marketing. And she really helped me. She had me, Wes, doing so many questionnaires and just pulling things that I knew, but I think sometimes we get going so fast that we don't stop and reflect a little bit on the messages that we want to tell. What do we really want to be known for? Are we purposely and intentionally growing and developing that? And so through that process, and she kept telling me, I think you need to do a podcast. And I said, that sounds great. Maybe like in a year or two. That sounds awesome. And one of the things that has been really impactful at our Keller Williams office, every morning we do an 8:30 to 8:45 morning huddle. I'm going to tie all this back in together. We started it during COVID to let our agents know if they were essential or not. And this was when we were using Zoom, obviously, at the time, but the majority of people weren't using it regular. So, nobody knows how to put themselves on mute. People have their camera off, getting ready in the morning. It was just a disaster. But I just think back to those times with all love and affection. But it created a system where we got on a call every day for 15 minutes and just talked mindset and strategy because people were scared. We were scared as an industry. Are we ever going to sell a house again? Like, remember? I mean, like,
Yeah. It's funny how that turned out, right?
It's funny how that turned out, right? Just give it a couple months. So realtors, when you think, am I ever going to sell a house again?
Right.
Just remember, you absolutely will. But anyway, and so we've been doing that now for 5 years. And it's one of the things that I am most passionate about in my role as team leader of Keller Williams, because I know personally the impact that showing up every single day, dressed with my makeup done at 8:30, regardless of if I feel like it or not, and knowing that I need to bring value. And I have guest speakers. I'm not speaking every day, but I speak a lot. And I also know if my guest texts me or forgets, guess who's on dock or deck? Deck.
It's on deck, yeah.
On deck, yeah. I'm not going to be on dock. I'd like to be on a dock, but I would be on deck, yes. And so it has been for me a huge personal growth catalyst. And so deciding to do the podcast was literally just a extension of that huddle. That huddle has been for 75 agents from my office on Zoom. Not that it's closed, but I mean, it's not been marketed outside of our office. And this was just a way to say, okay, let me take what I love doing, what has caused me to grow personally, what I know has been impactful to other people because they wouldn't keep showing up if it wasn't.
Right.
And let's just take it to a bigger audience.
Yeah.
And let me get a little bit uncomfortable.
So, okay, talk about, because I've seen some of these, but just for people that don't know, talk about what those huddles are and now what you've taken and you've made into the upside.
Yeah. So, and the huddle has evolved a little bit, but we started every morning. We're logging in right at 8:30. Music is playing. It's high energy. I believe I'm a big believer just in energy and how it shifts our physical body, our mental energy. So the music is popping every morning at 8:31. Either I'm introducing a great guest. It could be somebody, within our organization or outside that's going to come in and share, or I'm getting on there. We do book series sometimes, or sometimes it's just whatever is on the speaker's heart or mind. But it's of course, we're in a real estate world, so the examples are often real estate, but this is not real estate training. This is not how do you price a property or how do you create a, follow up for an open house lead. It is really about how do you show up every single day as the very best version of yourself? How do you keep your mindset strong? How do you keep your head in the game? Just those 6, how do you manage your time, which I don't believe you can actually do. You have to manage yourself. But like all of those just success, personal growth, and leadership principles. And that's what we're talking about. So it's only 15 minutes because guess what? We're busy. Like we got to go.
Right.
Nobody has time to sit around for an hour.
Yeah.
It's 15 minutes that we really don't go over. And I believe in respecting people's time. I think you can say a lot in a short amount of time. And it's been a really fun process. Yeah. And so my podcast is 8 to 12 minutes because I don't know how to speak in any other increment. And then I'm doing interviews as well, which are obviously longer because you can't interview somebody in 8 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So what, so far with the upside, what's been your favorite video that you've made so far?
My favorite video that I have out right now is probably, I think all my favorite videos are going to be the interviews because that collaboration. So my first interview that I launched was with Ken Wimberly. He's a Keller Williams agent out of the Arlington Market Center. He's one of the most insane people I know. The man gets up at I thought I'd get up early. I get up at 4:40. I think that's early.
That's early.
It's early. He gets up at 3:30. His morning routine is insane.
Wow.
And it's not about everybody needs to get up at 3:30. That would never be my message nor his. But he's just a very intentional person. And so just digging into his brain was really fun.
Yeah.
I've got one coming up next week with one of my friends, Lisa Juden, who just wrote a book, kind of picking her brain. She's in real estate. So those are going to be the most fun. But the short ones are, again, it's all about the consistency.
Yeah. So I love hearing that. What is? So let's talk about your role with KW.
Yeah.
In the office specifically, because you recruited. Well, really, I was recruited, but then you sold me.
Yeah.
on the office.
I closed that deal, Wes.
You closed the deal.
I know.
Right?
I did a good job. Yep.
You did.
I know. One of my best hires.
You really do. You do a great job. And that's why I want to just talk about what it is exactly. I know, but this is for the audience. Talk about what it is that you do at the office.
You're like the office scene. What is it, Theresa, that you would say you do around here?
I got to give you the platform to talk about it, but this is,
So I'm the team leader, vice president of development at Keller Williams Dallas Preston Road. So we're a part of a larger organization called the Go Network. Obviously a part of Keller Williams, but we're in the Go Network. So I run one of our locations, and my big rocks in my job is to recruit top talent. Mm-hmm. We got to get in business with the best of the best in real estate, like you, people that are committed, that are learning-based, that come from a place of contribution and value collaboration and training. Those are all agents that are great fits at Keller Williams. So my job is to get in relationship with top people and then to be in relationship with our top people that we have, coaching and consulting our top 20%. And then one of my favorite things I do is create culture. because where there is a great environment, growth happens. And so I do believe that culture matters. It matters maybe more than ever, not less. And so I do love being purposeful about creating just an environment where everybody can grow.
And I think one of the unique aspects, and I know we have multiple, but specifically with DPR, the culture has been incredible.
Yeah.
And so in your opinion, what's the most important component of culture, and how do you build that? Because culture doesn't happen overnight. It takes people, it takes work. But how have you guys successfully been able to make the office what it is?
Yeah, well, it's partially because we bring in people who are aligned with our culture, right? So somebody like you're a great fit for us because you're aligned in the God family business mentality that we are, right? You're a person that comes from collaboration. You're learning based, you're growth minded, you're right? All of those things. So when you attract, but you have to have that culture, right, to attract somebody to. So we've have a history, I've been with this office in a leadership role since 2013, but we have a history at DPR, a longstanding history of strong culture. And so I'm very grateful for that history. And you can lose culture so quickly if you don't purposely continue to build it and continue to grow it. So I believe that, culture in itself is not good or bad, right? People say, oh, they have culture. Well, everybody has culture. You could have an apathetic culture. You could have a toxic culture. You could have a collaborative culture, productive culture. So I think for a leader, you have to define the culture that you want to have. Like really be clear on what are you building and what type of culture do you want to see. And I believe you repeat that. You have to talk about a vision. Culture will come when you're building a vision of where you're going. If you're in an organization that's maybe not very healthy, that you're taking over, or culture has decreased for whatever reason, you have to start talking about the vision of the culture that you're building. So it's that repetition, it's recognition. Anytime you see that culture in action, you celebrate it, you recognize it. We started a campaign, so something very simple. We were in a lot of growth. This is years ago now, hiring a lot of newer agents, and we needed help taking care of these people. They were getting productive. The market was busy. It was a time where it was, this was a while ago, as you probably can tell from that. But anyway, and we knew we needed more agents helping agents. And so we started this campaign of agents helping agents. And anytime we would see an agent helping another agent, we were putting that on our Facebook group. We were celebrating it. So I think when you recognize more of what you want to see, people want to get recognized, right? They want to be a part of whatever is being celebrated. And then you create rituals, and rituals, that sounds kind of like, what's a ritual? But for instance, in our market center, huddle is a ritual, right? Every single day we log on, and by creating that ritual, the culture we're creating is that we're a market center that cares about mindset, about personal growth. We believe that outside success happens internally first. And when you invest in yourself every single day, you get 1% better, and that compounds over time, right? So it's a ritual that purposely builds the culture that we're trying to have. A mastermind is the same way. It's a ritual of collaboration. And if you want to build a culture of that, you have to create those rituals.
So how was that the culture that was developed? Because I agree. I think with our office, it's, we talk about a lot of what you said, and a lot of what you've taken to the upside is just limiting beliefs and believing in yourself and being the best version of yourself, which I think is a fantastic culture. Doesn't attract everybody, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. Yep.
But how was that developed? I mean, how did that become what we are?
I think couplefold. I think it has to do with, for instance, we're a part of a larger organization that is growth focused. And so because we're a part of a larger organization that's growth focused, if we get on board with that vision, that's going to funnel down.
Right.
I think also that's why leadership matters. What's important to a leader eventually becomes important to the group. And again, not to everybody, right? And not to the same degree, but when you're creating different kinds of culture, that leadership does matter. I tell newer team leaders in my role that are taking over offices that once you've been there a year, your market center looks like you. Good and bad, right? So I can look at our own office and the challenges. I can also say, or the areas that we have to grow. I get to, as a leader, look in the mirror and go, "That's my responsibility," right? Because at the end of the day, and it's team, of course, but as the leader, you take that accountability and responsibility.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So, all right, let's talk about a lot of what the upside is about. Is personal growth, and but I want to ask you what the name. So the upside.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that? What does that mean?
By looking through a lot of really hokey ideas. I struggled a lot with that, and it was interesting because when I heard the upside, it just resonated. I saw it and I heard it and I said, "Oh, I think that's it." And I had looked at a lot of options, like brainstorming a ton of stuff, which, by the way, Abercrombie and Flipped is so great. I mean, so great. I decided anything with Flood, though, was very hokey. I could not figure that out at all. But yours is, have you always kind of...
I've been made fun of my whole life for Abercrombie and Fitch. And I specialize in investing primarily, so it just kind of came. It was like,
it's brilliant. I mean, you have to have that moment where you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! I cannot believe." Anyways, so
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's so good. There wasn't anything like really super like divine about it. However, I'm known to be a very positive person, and that is very intentional. I think I'm naturally tend to be a little bit more optimistic. And I have core values of just knowing all things work out together for good. A lot of that is because of my faith that I see the world as I do. But I believe that mindset matters so much and how we view things. So the upside, obviously, of that, but then also just of growth. And, I think if we quit growing, we get bored. Nothing. It's like how old's your little one now?
16 months.
So you will find out even more as she gets older. Bored kids, it's not a good thing. Like nothing good.
I'm learning that now.
Yeah, nothing good happens really. Now, I mean, I know they say you should let your kids be bored because they get creative. Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying we make our kids, like put a screen in front of them all the time so they're not bored. So I get that piece of it. But, you can probably think back in our lives. Most of the time we get in trouble is because we're bored.
Right.
We're not challenged. Yes. And so anyway, so I think that growth is what helps us avoid burnout. It's what keeps us challenged. It keeps us sharp. And I don't think it ever ends. Like it is, my goal is that I'm continually becoming the best version of myself. I'm not running anyone else's race. So I'm not competing against you. I'm not competing against anyone else. And different seasons look different as to what the best version of me. I'm sure at 85, I'm not going to say this is the best version of my physical health. Although I hope for 85, it's the absolute best version of my physical health that I'm capable of. Does that make sense?
Right.
So that's, I don't know, that's kind of the upside.
Well, it's one of those things where I talk a lot about this, but you might not ever be, and I think this plays into growth. You might not, like for me personally, one of my weaknesses, we were talking about this, I'm not the best networker. I need to get better at it. I know that. I'm never going to be a 10 out of 10. Like your 10 out of 10 is probably my, 5 out of 10. But if I'm trying to be the best version of, if I can get to the 5, I might be at a 2 now.
Yeah.
If I can get to 5, like that's being the best version of me.
Yes.
And then just trying to grow from there.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that one of the things I love about what you've created is it's an opportunity for people to go on every day or however many episodes you have and it's an opportunity to work on yourself because so many podcasts are just consuming content from maybe, especially in the real estate industry, it's a lot of how can I get more listings? How can I get more, this? How do I network better? How do I grow my database? But yours, it's work on yourself.
Yes.
be the best version of you. And so,
Well, because here's the thing. If it was just about skill, everybody would do it.
right.
It's not just about now. Does skill matter? Of course. Do we have to have training in our professionalism and our area? Of course. Like, absolutely. Those things, practical, tangible. How do I do it and what do I do? I mean, launching the Upside, I have learned more about YouTube, social media, all of the things. It's been tactical. It's not been anything about personal growth. And at the end of the day, I could have learned all of that. And if I didn't get over what I look like on camera or how the lighting was or whether it was perfect or the consistency of showing up and doing it when you don't feel like it wouldn't have mattered. How many YouTube videos I had watched on that, the books I read, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it has to be both. But at the end of the day, it's the success is the people that will master themselves and then master leadership, because you can only hit a certain level of success on your own. And then you have to start succeeding through others.
Yeah. And I think what's been, what you said was interesting about going back to culture of your culture really is, you could say it's one thing, but it's demonstrated.
Yeah. It's how you make people feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's how you make people feel. It's demonstrated by the people in the organization. And we have some great individuals who really, it's so interesting to watch. You're not just talking about it. There are people that actually demonstrate it.
Yes.
And our best do.
Yes.
Guys like Ben Baker.
Like Ben Baker is a perfect example. Yeah. Well, and that's 100% the case, is that a culture and an organization, it starts with the leader, the responsibility of the leader, but everybody in that organization has to live that culture. And, I would say that's what I'm so proud of the people that we get to work with every day, is they exemplify that. They show up that way and they protect it, right? They protect it from the gossip and from the negativity and from the victim mindset, right? Real estate is, it's easy when the market is down or things are challenging to get in a room with a bunch of other people and figure out all the reasons why we can't, so that we feel better about ourselves.
Right.
And then guess what? We definitely won't.
Yeah.
But it can feel good in that moment, right, to commiserate. And I'm not saying you don't take 30 minutes or, 30 seconds to commiserate. And you have a culture of problem solving and of finding the upside and of getting into action, right? What can I control versus what can't I? I had this conversation at dinner with my girls. They were I have 13-year-old twin girls, and they came home from theater practice their one-act plays in a week.
Oh, wow.
And they were just so stressed and nothing was going right. There was a laundry list of things that they can't control. And so we had a really good little coaching session around what we can't control and what we can. And when you create a culture of people who are focused on what you can control, there's magic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have some more questions for you, but I don't want to pivot off of the Upside yet, is there anything else you want to share about the Upside?
Well, just join us. Join us.
Where can people find the Upside?
Okay, so you can find it all the places. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
Okay.
If you go to Theresa Flood, and my name is spelled Theresa with an H, so it actually says There's a Flood.
There's a Flood. Okay.
I know. When Tommy and I were engaged, I started, writing my name out with my new upcoming last name. I was like, it says There's a Flood. So anyway, There's a Flood. .com, and you can go subscribe to the Upside, and I'll send you a reminder of podcast episodes. But they are, like I said, the majority of them are short and sweet. You and I were chatting before we started recording this about just, you're a high D on the disc, right? Like, let's go. Like, we don't have time to waste. Let's get straight to the point. I am not giving a bunch of blah, 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 blah. Like, it is just short, value per minute.
Yeah.
Take something, run with it, and use it in your life and business. So would love to have you join us for that. It's just been such a fun journey.
Good at talking though. It's already been 30 minutes, and here we are.
Man,
I know. Okay, I want to talk to you about something I think is really important, and that's choosing the right brokerage if you're as a real estate professional.
Yes.
So obviously, when you get started in the industry, you're interviewing brokerages, and that's a big part of what you do with us. So one of the things that I noticed and again, this all goes back to culture, but when I was interviewing, it just felt like a family. we just have so many resources. And when I say resources, it's not necessarily software. It's just there's good people.
There's people
that are there.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, what is the most important thing somebody should look for if they're brand new? Because I have a lot of my viewers are in the real estate profession. Whether you're new or constantly shifting, you're looking for.
Yeah.
And people are always looking for the right fit.
Yep.
What do you think is the most important thing?
I think it depends on the individual, because it depends on what you value, right? So if I'm sitting down with somebody, it's never about going through a pitch, right? It's about finding what somebody values. And if we have that, then we're going to be really aligned. So for instance, as a new agent, so you joined us when you were brand new.
Right.
And so you chose to join a brokerage that wasn't the cheapest option, right? You said, I'm willing to pay a higher split because I value, probably first and foremost, you valued your relationship with Ben,
Yeah.
right? And you said, I really respect this guy and I want to follow him and be a part of what he's doing. So you value relationships, which is a core value at our office. But somebody who chooses to be there is somebody too who values training, and who values investment into their business, because they know that 100% of nothing. Yeah. I'm not real great at math, but I know that is also nothing. Yeah. And so many new agents, they make money decisions before it's time to make a money decision. And you're an investor, right? You understand returns. You do that every day, all day.
Right.
And I think people forget that sometimes in your business, you're looking for an ROI. Your brokerage should have an ROI to you, a return on that investment. So whether you're paying an office bill, whether you're paying a split, the idea is that investment should help you be the best that you can be, and it should absolutely reward you financially, right? Because when you put yourself in that place. So I think the reasons are a little bit different for everybody because there's different pieces of our value prop.
Sure.
And so it matters that somebody is aligned. Everybody's not a fit for us. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think are some questions that you should ask when you're interviewing? What are questions that should be asked to every brokerage out there to find out if it's the right fit for you?
I would want to know the vision for their future.
Okay.
I would want to know where do you see the real estate industry in the future, and what are you doing to protect the real estate agent and the future of real estate? Now, that may be a little bit of a big question for a brand new agent, but if you're a producing agent, knowing, and it's not too big for a new agent. I'm not saying that so much, but you're probably looking for some more immediate things. But if you're a producer looking to make a change, I think asking about the future vision, because it's changed a lot, in the time that you've been licensed, and it's changing faster and more readily, right? So I think understanding that, I think there's a lot of buzzwords out. There's a lot of promises of quote, mentoring, and it's all reactive help, meaning if you have a question, you can get an answer, which is you absolutely have to have that. But if it's all it is, it's never going to push you to the next level. And so I think you have to have the training, you have to have the coaching that's going to help you get from A to B. And then you have to have that mentoring, that reactive help, when you need it. But just understanding, how somebody defines those pieces of the value proposition, I think are important.
And what have you seen? You've obviously recruited, you've hired a ton of agents. You've seen people come and go. You've seen people engaged, not engaged. What are the common characteristics that you see for the ones that make it, that are the best? What are the top traits?
I think number one, somebody has to be willing to be uncomfortable. And I have interviewed hundreds, thousands maybe, of brand new agents. And I've heard people say, I can always tell right away if somebody's going to succeed or fail.
How?
I'm curious. I don't believe that. I don't believe you can.
Okay.
Because I think because I've had people come in that have been so successful at previous careers, but they are not willing to be new again and get uncomfortable. Right. And that's a pride thing. And I get that. Like you're, somebody who's been very successful at the top of their field and industry to come in to be new and to struggle. That is tough. Right. So, I think the willingness to be uncomfortable. So your personality type, you're very driven, you're a hard worker, you're going to just do it and kind of plow through the brick wall. That's going to come a little bit more natural to you. It doesn't mean, though, it's still not hard to be uncomfortable.
Right.
You had to go be uncomfortable. You had to go push yourself. The podcast for me is making me uncomfortable. Anything we want to do to grow is going to make us uncomfortable. So I think being uncomfortable is huge. I think being truly learning based. Every new agent, all they want to know is about training. And yet some of them barely show up. They're not actually learning based. They want to know the bare minimum to survive, but they're not willing to actually be coachable, be learning based, come from curiosity, continue to learn. And then I think it's just the consistency of doing the things you don't want to do.
But I mean, you're right. I would say real estate is a profession amongst many where people might start it late or they didn't originally get into it and they want to now for whatever reason, however they got into it. We all, if you go back to whenever we all first started, those first few years in your original career, they're a grind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brutal.
It's brutal.
And so people don't want to redo that at times. It's like how bad do you want it? If you don't want to do that, then you just got to understand this is your career. If you're starting in real estate, it's like a bank account. The more money you deposit into it is the more you're going to get out, or a plant, the more you water it. So if you're just opening the account and not investing anything into it, there's going to be nothing to withdraw from at the end of the day. But I get what you're saying, and I think it's important for people to know this is an industry where if you're going to get into it, there's no ceiling.
There's no ceiling, yeah.
But you have to be willing to roll your sleeves up, and I don't think
you got to be willing to start at the floor.
Start at the floor.
Yeah. Okay, so Rory Vaden, to come full circle, that we were talking about earlier, in his book, Take the Stairs, he talks about entitlement. And I had never thought about entitlement in this way. We often accuse young people of an entitlement mentality.
Right.
But really the idea that we would think that we are different. We don't have to do what everybody else does. The world should somehow owe it to us to succeed without the grind or without the dedication or without the consistency is just an entitlement attitude. And I thought, how many times do I think that I shouldn't have to pay the price that other people have paid by starting at the floor with whatever new I'm doing. Guess what? We all start there, and it's the people that will keep showing up when it's hard and when just keep, it's like just keep going. If you just keep going, you're going to be one of the few that make it in the end.
And that's the great thing is there's so many, especially in this industry, there's a pathway. It's there. People are telling you what you have to do.
Yep.
It's just a matter of if you're going to do it or not. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to be successful.
Yes. I mean, think about how many people have thought about starting a real estate podcast, and here you are starting it, and the secret sauce will be in the consistency of keeping on during times where you don't see all the results.
Right.
And saying, I'm going to keep pushing through that, and I'm going to keep going when the likes aren't there, when the subscribes aren't there. I'm going to keep going because it's not about that. It's about the commitment I made and the impact I want to make.
Persistence, commitment, and having great guests like yourself on that's key. And
that makes it fun.
That makes it fun.
I totally agree with that.
Hearing about and I've seen a lot of your content. Hearing you talk about it just puts. I understand it deeper now, and so
Thanks for that.
I'm looking at it from a different angle. But I'm glad you got to come on and talk about it because I think,
gosh, thank you.
I'm hoping that people listen to this will tune into yours because I really do think there's a lot to gather from it. And I've obviously been around you for a few years now, so I'm familiar. But for people, and I love that you've taken it publicly because I think people outside of the office need to hear from you.
Thank you for that. Well, I appreciate that. You're a great interviewer. I love what you're doing here. And I just want to tell everybody listening, please go Abercrombie and Flipped. Go subscribe, do all of the things, and shoot him a, especially public acknowledgement, but a text message on the side of what it means, because I think that when you're doing this kind of stuff, that's what keeps you going. You are doing a great job. You have a gift to do this. You really do. You're going to get better and better as this thing grows. So I'm so excited to have gotten on the start of this before you're totally famous.
Wow.
And doing all the things, but you really do have a gift. So keep it up.
Thank you.
I love what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate that. I think we'll end there.
Sounds awesome.
I love it. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.